Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I see quite a number of you here. We're really happy to have you. I'm Kristen Taylor, leading our communications for What Works Cities, and we're really excited to have you today for this What Works Cities Classroom about communicating to connect with your residents. Before we get started, a bit of news to share with all of you. For those of us who follow us on Twitter, you would have seen that earlier today we shared the obituary of our Director of Communications, Charmin Stein, who passed away from cancer over the weekend. She was a fierce advocate for this work and worked with so many of you. For those of you who may not know her, she had a wonderful career starting out as a journalist, later leading communications for a number of city agencies here in New York City before she transitioned into doing communications in the nonprofit world. And of course, most recently, leading What Works Cities communications efforts here. She was really a big part in crystallizing a lot of the vision for communications here at What Works Cities and a lot of the philosophies about storytelling that we've had the great privilege of talking about with all of you. So we're really thrilled to have this opportunity today to advance that work. It feels like a really great way to honor her. She and I were actually just in Gilbert, Arizona, about 8 weeks ago, where we had the great opportunity to meet with Dana Berchman, the Chief Digital Officer, who will be leading the session today. And her team is just doing really remarkable things. Dana has a background where she has taught policy and communications work at the university level, but she's also had a career in New York City working at places like MTV and MSNBC. And those opportunities really inform the very unique strategy that she's applied to running communications and digital strategy in Gilbert, where those efforts inform everything from how they're engaging residents to how they're using their open data to advance transparency in their efforts across the city. So I'll let you, Dana, tell more about your team and the work that you're doing. But I hope that all of you are able to find some great advice and tips and everything that she's able to share with you today. And for those of you who may not be communications experts, there's still plenty of work here and advice here for you to apply to what you're doing to advance your own efforts in storytelling. So without further ado, I will turn it over to you, Dana. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, everyone. That was a really nice introduction, and I had the pleasure of getting to know Charmin, and so it is for sure bittersweet to be here with all of you today, but I know that she would want us to forge on. We attempted to do this when they visited Gilbert, but we ran into some technical difficulties and had to cut our time in half. So fortunately, we have a little bit more time to dive a little bit deeper into some of the things that Kristen was talking about and leave some time, hopefully, to ask or answer any questions at the end or share any more thoughts. I am really looking forward to spending this time with you, and then also am happy to share the presentation after the fact. I am going to hide myself so that we can focus on the presentation. So I'll let that take over in 1 second, hopefully. So as Kristen mentioned, we are do things a little bit differently here in Gilbert than what you might see in most communications departments. Very kind of interesting strategy. Gilbert is one of the fastest growing cities in the country. We have almost 250,000 residents, and we expect to add another 100,000 more before build out in the next decade. And so we once were a very sleepy town. In fact, we were known as the hay capital of the world, and are now a booming, growing, thriving city, even though we still are called a town, the largest one in America, in fact. And so it's been really interesting to follow our growth and then also really focus on how we're engaging with our residents. And I think we're really doing things very differently than what you'll see in most cities and traditional communications departments across the country. And really what our goal is to actively engage the community through video, social media, and other online methods while showcasing updates on digital strategy and soliciting feedback. And the bottom line for us is we really need to be where our residents are. So I always say, go where your residents are. If your residents are on social media, you should meet them there. If your residents are paying bills using things like Venmo, we should be thinking about paying bills using things like Venmo. So this is really a concept that I think about a lot, about how the way the world works. If the rest of the world is doing this, then we need to do that as well. And in government, oftentimes that's difficult. What's really been interesting and what I'd love to share with you guys today is some of the wins that we found engaging digital strategies that are actually more cost effective than some of the traditional methods of communications, like printing and flyers and mailing and all of those things that can get quite pricey. And so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some of the ways that I think you can build the buy-in to get the support to create digital communications or outreach across your organization. And as Kristen mentioned, even if you're not in the communications line of work, hopefully you'll find value in thinking about the way that you're delivering services to your residents and the way that they would like to receive them. So always kind of keeping at the forefront why we're doing what we're doing. It's for our citizens, for our residents, and again, making government easy for them to access and to relate to. And so these are all the things that we're really focused on in Gilbert. As I mentioned, our communications department looks very different than what you'll see in most traditional communications departments. So in other cities, my title would be communications director. Here, I'm the chief digital officer. So with that comes a lot of work on various technology projects, which is a lot of fun. And I always say marketers have a really great way, I believe, of embracing new technology. And so we've been really effective in Gilbert, I feel, by incorporating a lot of these technologies into the work that we're doing. So some of those examples are the open data portal that we worked really closely with What Works Cities to develop and launch. And I'm going to be showing you a demo of that and kind of our outward facing marketing piece of that. 311 is in our department. We run a program called Spark App League, which I'm going to talk to you about, which is a great way to leverage private partnerships to get what you need when you don't have big budgets. And so we have a mobile app contest for junior high and high school students where we're engaging students in coding and then having them make the city's apps or games. So really cool stuff. We also do some of the traditional media relations and outreach. We don't really do formal press releases, or we try to avoid them as much as possible, and we focus on doing video releases or short blurbs and short amounts of information that we can share. We have a video strategy, as Kristen mentioned. I have a background in video production and television, and so really interesting that this wasn't actually part of the job description, but something that I brought to the table was thinking about communicating with video. Again, how is the rest of the world getting their information? We need to be doing that as well. So when I came here, we had a lot of audiovisual techs who press buttons for public meetings, but we're being asked to create videos. These were not video production people, and so this created some problems. And so the types of positions that we have here look very different than in other cities. I have a lot of hybrid communications professionals, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how my structure is set up. We're actually quite lean. We don't have a huge department, but the things that we're focusing on are very different than what you'll see in other cities. So again, we're focused on marketing, branding, engagement, communications. We run the city website, graphic design, social media, all those things that I mentioned. So this all came about because my boss, the city manager, Patrick Banger, came to Gilbert from a suburb of St. Louis about 7 years ago. And he was really focused, believe it or not, on the work that Michael Bloomberg was doing in New York City, and had taken a close look at how they were engaging citizens and residents online. And he had created a position, a chief digital officer, and they really were focusing on some really innovative work, taking payphones and turning them into Wi-Fi hotspots, among other things. And so Patrick, our city manager, was really paying attention to what Mike Bloomberg was doing in this space and found it fascinating. And when he arrived in Gilbert, he wondered why this growing, thriving community of 250,000 people didn't have a dedicated communications department. And one of the reasons was that it had grown so quickly. So what had been, as I mentioned, a small, sleepy, hey, capital of the world of 15,000 people was now a thriving, booming community. And he felt instead of creating a traditional communications department, he wanted it to be a digital one. So fortunately for me, I saw the position posted as a chief digital officer and was able to come in and build a really incredible team. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about them specifically. But one of the things I wanted to point out when I mentioned him is really it's so crucial when you want to undertake efforts like this, whether it's your open data portal or launching a program on social media or doing outreach in general, is getting the buy-in from the top down. And this is really something that I can't emphasize enough. The importance of, and I know that leadership changes. We all know, especially in cities that have strong mayors, when a mayor leaves, it can change the direction, or a city manager, of where the city's going. However, it's really important if you want the organization and the community to get behind these efforts, that they're all bought in on this in the beginning. So you have to have a plan, which I laid out as a digital roadmap when I first came, again, modeled after the work that Michael Bloomberg was doing in New York City. I met with his chief digital officer, actually Rachel Hote at the time, and really kind of scaled what she was doing to something that was more appropriate for Gilbert. I didn't have the big budgets that she had necessarily, but I liked a lot of the ideas behind it. And one thing I really liked was it came from the mayor, right? So our digital roadmap is a document that was signed by the city manager and the mayor. And so this tells everyone that they need to get in line behind this. And that's really important. One of the What Works Cities events that I went to, they showed a picture, an image of someone pushing a boulder up a steep hill. And I think if you don't start with the buy-in at the beginning, you really will always feel like you're trying to push people to a place that they might not be comfortable in. So it's really important to get that leadership involved. I remember one time our city manager in the very beginning of these efforts had asked for staff to put their LinkedIn profile in their email signature. And this caused such outrage in the organization. People thought, is he trying to get us to apply for other jobs in other cities? Like, this is kind of crazy. No, he wasn't at all. In fact, he was really trying to encourage people to connect with each other and connect with other professionals in your field. So for government, again, that tends to be maybe a foreign concept. But however, the rest of the world is engaging on things like LinkedIn and using these tools daily. So it's really important that, like I said, you have that buy-in from the top down. It's coming from management or higher, to really feel that you have the support behind these efforts, and then lay out a plan, obviously, that tells you how you're going to get there. Part of the plan for me was a team, right? I came recently to a Bloomberg event, and one of the things that Michael Bloomberg said first out of the gate was the most important success that he found in leadership was assembling the right team, a great team. And I couldn't agree with him more. I think that it's difficult in government when oftentimes you inherit teams of people that you feel might not be the people that you would have hired for that particular position. And I know that makes it difficult. I was fortunate, as I mentioned, that I was able to build something from the ground up. But one of the things that I wanted was very different looking types of positions. We all know that the media landscape is changing, and it used to be, when I came, that we had quite a few dedicated reporters covering Gilbert, and over time that has really dwindled. And I think that what we have learned is that people really still want to know about their communities. They want to know what's going on. They want to engage. They're interested, but they can't find that information anywhere. So I believe it's really crucial that we're giving that information out. We are that source. They come to us to get information daily. So I wanted people who had experience making high quality video and communicating professionally and marketing. And so my staff is, as I mentioned, we're kind of a small team, actually thinking about what we do, IT related, communications related, marketing related, and then all community outreach is also in my department as well. So underneath me, I have a digital media and marketing officer, which in other cities is a traditional PIO. But I call her PIO plus because I really knew that I needed someone who had more than, was just answering media inquiries. Because again, with the dwindling media industry, those media inquiries are happening less frequently when you have less people covering your cities. And so why have a dedicated person or multiple dedicated people just for that role of that media relations piece, but be thinking more strategically about how you're getting your story out. Kristen mentioned storytelling, and that is at the key of everything we're doing. Is we are telling Gilbert's story every single day. And this is important to have the right people who have these skill sets and know how to do this. So underneath her, she's got a digital communication strategist who handles all of our social media. This was a position that was very difficult to get buy-in for, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about why I think it's so important. But we manage more than 25 social media channels across the organization, and she's really in charge of strategy, though, thinking about messaging, not just being reactive, but being proactive and thinking about the information that we put out. Also underneath the PIO, Digital Media and Marketing Officer, is a Community Engagement Coordinator. This is the latest position to come into our department. If you have community outreach and neighborhood services, they probably exist in your organization somewhere. In our organization, this had happened to live in various places, including the mayor's office, intergovernmental relations, parks and recreation. And we really felt with what we saw happening in the engagement online in our department that it was really important to bring these two things together, and that a lot of the outreach and community involvement that we were having through social media was very similar to what was happening on Nextdoor, or maybe with any issues that might arise through our 311 app or in person. And so this was really an important piece, I think, kind of the last puzzle piece to come into our department to bring that coordination here together. So this person oversees our 311 system, as well as all of the community outreach Nextdoor. And so this is really exciting for us. And I'm going to talk to you specifically about the engagement that we have Nextdoor, on Nextdoor in a little bit. I also have two digital journalists. They handle all of our video production, both short form and long form. And I'll show you some examples of some of the things that we do, but they're creating video content every day. One of them was a documentary filmmaker in a former life, and the other was in the news business. So again, they bring these really unique skill sets to the table and are able to contribute in so many ways. I also have a multimedia analyst. She handles our website for Gilbert, and also does all of our graphic design, almost like two jobs in one. And that's been really effective for us. Again, Gilbert, before I came, really didn't have a brand. And so we've been really focused the last 5 or 6 years on building that brand. And so that Gilbert is known by people across the country as a place that you want to do business, and you want to raise your family, and you want to live, work, and play. So that brand is a huge piece of this, and really was our starting point when I first came 6 years ago. And then I have a data and technology analyst. As I mentioned, crucial relationship between the IT department. A lot of the projects that we take on, we might have the front end and the back end living here, but it's really important that we are working closely, especially for things like the open data portal, with our GIS teams and everyone that's getting our data ready for release. And so this person that works for me was a former developer, and again, not someone you would traditionally see in a communications department, but he also runs our Spark App League, which I mentioned and we'll talk more about. So that's the team. They are small but mighty, and they do a really terrific job at filling in and learning various things. I'm going to talk to you about our podcast that we do, so we produce that. We just started doing weekly news briefings for Alexa, for an Alexa skill, so you can find out the 5 things you need to know if you ask Alexa for your daily news briefing in Gilbert. And so these are really fun things that my team seems to just think up and then tackle and make happen. We just get it done. And obviously in the landscape of technology and digital communications in general, things are changing very quickly. We know that when we go to bed at night and we wake up, technology is different overnight. And so government isn't always so fluid to change and receptive to change. And so this can be a very difficult concept. And so this is something we've had to be really patient with pockets of our organization to understand that, they say to us, well, we were just using Periscope and now we have to use Facebook Live. It's like, yep. Periscope's kind of going by the wayside. Now it's all about Facebook Live. So, being able to adapt and shift quickly to, incorporating and engaging with new technologies that might be available. Really important for us. So one of the things that happened to us, fortunately, about actually almost 2 years ago exactly, was, as I mentioned, we make a lot of high quality video, and I knew that with the talent that we had here to make video, Justin Timberlake, you may recall, put out a call for people to use his Can't Stop the Feeling video and create dance videos for it, and some groups did. The Memphis Grizzlies, I think a tech company, a couple of startups, and I thought to myself, here's an opportunity to be the only city that I think is actually capable of turning around a video like this, and it had to be quick because this was obviously something that was trending, and I'm a big proponent of this, is thinking broadly. Again, what is the rest of the world doing? How do I meet my residents where they are? What are they interested in? What are they thinking about today? What are they reading about? What are they following on Twitter? We need to attach ourselves to whatever those themes or trends that are happening so that people will find us more relatable. And so I thought, we have a really cool community that I think would be open to dancing for Justin Timberlake. So in a quick 24 hours, we had to shoot and produce a video that we could put out using the hashtag, and obviously we could tag Justin Timberlake. I thought we could do this. We put out a call to residents to come and dance under the water tower and created a video. I'm going to show you a quick clip of it, and then I'm going to tell you what happened after we posted it online.
I shouldn't do, but you dance, dance, dance. Ain't nobody leaving, so keep dancing. Got this feeling in my body. Come on.
Okay, so as I mentioned, this was something that, again, we were very fortunate that we had the ability to make a video like this, and also be able to share this and send this out. Well, we did tag Justin Timberlake, and within about 24 hours, he himself had shared this video on Facebook and Twitter with the praying hands emoji and tagging us. So this is really, an amazing example and, opportunity for us. And it's not every day you're going to make a video that's going to be shared by a celebrity, and that, everybody would, everyone says that all the time. Well, not everyone can get Justin Timberlake to share their video, and I understand that that's going to be true. We were very fortunate. And so from this, not intentionally meaning to, obviously I want to share the good word about Gilbert to everyone in the country, but what was really amazing about this was the aftermath of what came from our police officers dancing in the video, people calling my desk saying, I want to retire in Gilbert. I've never heard of this place before, but I want to live there and move there. And so this was really powerful. And again, something that for us really could put Gilbert on the map. So we had over 500,000 views on this video. People love where they live, and when they love where they live, and when you can tap into that community pride with something like this that they want to share and talk about online and on social media, I can't emphasize that enough. We talk about that a lot, is that sentiment about the pride that people take in where they live or where they're from or where they work or where they grew up or where they're doing business. This is really key in how you can reach them and then get them to be the ambassadors to take that message forward and share it. And so this was an amazing tool for us to use to do just that. Again, I understand not everyone's going to have a celebrity retweet and share them all the time, but for us, it was a really amazing opportunity and experience, and I think put us on the map. One other thing that we do that I think is really unique is we host a digital state of the town. And so instead of having a boring lunch where the mayor stands at the podium and talks at you about who knows what, and a rubber chicken lunch, we decided that why just limit this to something for a few hundred people when we could make a documentary style video that could be shared and watched from anywhere. You don't need to come to the event to be able to participate in this. So every year we create a digital state of the town where the mayor is the host, and we do premiere it at the local movie theater, which makes it a lot of fun, but it's really meant to be shared online. And we've launched this at the end of January. We always have a theme. This year's theme was Life in Gilbert. We incorporated videos that our residents sent to us. And it's really wonderful. We did more real true documentary style this year. We followed the day in the life of the mayor and the city manager. And so if you haven't seen it or you're interested, you should definitely check it out or think about a concept like this of taking something that might be an in-person event and making it digital. We have over 65,000 views already just on YouTube alone of our State of the Town. And so something to be really proud of. We obviously, people ask us what production company we use to do this, and we do it all in-house. And you really have to, because you're shooting this year round. We're already planning for our theme for next year. We already know the hashtag and the theme, and so we're already filming and collecting footage for that now. And then that way we can show the year in review. So this is a really great tool for us, again, to use for marketing, to sell Gilbert beyond just our borders. Our economic development team loves sharing things like this so that other people know about Gilbert and businesses will want to locate here. So we're very thoughtful when we create these that we include all of those various departments. And so if you haven't checked it out, it's really quite great. And something that we're very proud of and we work very hard on throughout the year. So again, a digital state of the town, thinking differently. One thing that I haven't mentioned that I should mention is, I told you our population, but another advantage that we have for when we're trying to meet our residents online is that our average age is 32. So again, knowing your audience is really crucial. So if you have a large elderly population, obviously you might not be able to have a strictly online strategy. However, I will say that more and more we're watching the demographics and really paying attention to what's happening nationally, and more retired folks are using Facebook and paying their bills online. And so even in the last 5 years, that's changed quite dramatically. Where it used to be, where you'd have to have that in-person bill payments still for those people that want to come there, pay their bills in person. But more and more, the world is just moving, the rest of the world is moving away from that. And so we should be looking at ways to do that too. Another point about our demographics I should mention is that 80,000 of our 250,000 residents are school-age children. So we have a very young population, again, a great way for us to engage with them online using things like Snapchat, whereas other cities might not have quite the engagement there. So I would say, I mentioned getting buy-in from the top down, but knowing your audience, obviously the #1 rule of marketing and communications first before you kind of set down this path is, knowing your audience and knowing where they are and again, how to reach them. So for us, we're very fortunate that we have large online engagement because so many of our residents are young and are already online. Speaking of engagement, another amazing opportunity for us is to showcase our mayor. Our mayor is a female. Her name is Jen Daniels. She's young. She is very typical of our demographic in Gilbert. She's under 40. She's a mom. She's hip. She's cool. And so we're thrilled when she came to us as our new mayor about a year and a half ago. And we said, we really need to be able to showcase her. She's not your typical mayor. And she was willing to let us do that. And she's fantastic on camera. One of the things that I really love about her is how when the camera's on, she doesn't change who she is or what she's doing. She's just herself. And for politicians, as we all know, that can be hard to find and very rare. And so I've really enjoyed using her as a tool and really maximizing. A lot of people don't know their elected officials. They don't know who their mayor is. The engagement that we get when we post things like the video I'm about to show you, I'm going to show you a clip, is really powerful. People tell us, I didn't know we had a female mayor, or look how cool our mayor is. I want to hang out with her. That is fantastic. She loves it. We love it. The community loves it. So one of the ways that we thought, again, what is the rest of the world doing and what do they like? Well, we know that everybody loves James Corden's Carpool Karaoke, and we thought, well, why don't we do something like that? So I'm going to show you a brief clip of the first Carpool Karaoke that we released, and then I'm going to talk to you a little bit about why, what great feedback and engagement we got from this. So take a look.
I would imagine as a police officer, it can be really hard sometimes. You see a lot, you're in the community, you're doing a lot. How do you get over that? How do you handle that?
You give them a smile and you just shake it off.
Shake it off?
Shake it off.
Shake it off.
Shake it off.
Wait, what?
What?
Shake it off.
Shake it off.
See, I'm too late. Got nothing in my brain.
Can't stop, won't stop moving. It's like I got this music.
So again, another example of her, you know, obviously not everyone's mayor is going to be, you know, ready to do a carpool karaoke. But we were very fortunate because ours was willing. Before she stepped into that car with the school resource officer, they had never met. And so this was a really amazing moment to kind of capture and have them talk. And there's a longer, more full video that you can find on our YouTube channel and other channels, although some was removed for copyright issues for music licensing. So that's another important thing to keep in mind when you want to make videos. But what's really interesting and terrific about this is the feedback that the police department got and our school resource officers, and you know, making this relatable moment. So we've done other ones since then. We did one in the garbage truck right along. We just did one on a school bus with our new school superintendent. And so these are really great ways and tools that we can be talking about issues, and you'll hear their conversations. We actually are able to incorporate topics that are top of mind to people or things that they need to know into the video. So even though it's fun and we're laughing and we're dancing and all of that, there's definitely an underlying reason and message and that we're doing things like this. And so if you're looking for ways to engage, it might not be your mayor. It could be someone else that you find in your organization that you feel like would be great on camera or that you could capitalize on this. She's terrific. She's done a lot of cool stuff with us. She did a Jimmy Fallon thank you note video. Again, looking at trends that are outside. What else? What are people watching? What are they doing? Like, how could we be a part of that? Or what could we do to kind of attach to that or get interest? And so that's really key. And you know, I've been really happy to see the response that she gets, because a lot, like I mentioned, a lot of times people don't know who their mayor is and they don't necessarily vote in the elections. I always tell people we get, on average, on social media posts, more engagement significantly than the number of people that vote in our elections. So this is really important, you know, to be engaging the community, and this is really a way that you can do this. And so again, people love talking about this, the conversations, the comments that we get, the feedback, and then when they share it and start to spread the word, it's really powerful. So, you know, we love using her in this way. Again, she's game for it. Not everyone would be, I understand that. But look for those people who are, or those opportunities. There's people in your organization, maybe they're in your fire department, maybe they're in your public works department, who you could showcase, who would be willing to go on camera. And it doesn't have to be so fancy and highly produced. The beauty, please remember, with live video is that you don't have to have a studio. I don't have a studio. The community is our studio. Gilbert is our studio. And I don't have a lot of fancy equipment. You don't need a lot of fancy equipment. Probably what you have in your hand is enough to get you by or make, you know, at least what you need for a basic video. So I tell people when they're getting started out, not to invest in the big equipment or feeling like you have to do some fancy video production. That is one of the beauties of live video, is the ability to just kind of run and gun with it and not have to be so highly produced like our digital state of the town is. Of course, we still do a lot of that too and take great pride in the quality at times, but when appropriate, a lot of times for cooking demonstrations or other things, live video makes more sense. And so again, looking at what the trends are, another big thing that we're doing a lot of is graph text over video. Obviously something really hot. We all know we watch videos in meetings. We're not supposed to be watching videos. Can't turn the sound on, but you'd like to still read the text and know what's going on. And so that's a great way. We use a lot of text over video, especially knowing where you're posting it and customizing that content for wherever channels you're putting it. You don't just make a video and kind of slap it up everywhere, but maybe a 1-minute version on Instagram looks a little different than something natively that we'll put on Facebook. So be thinking about that. So as I mentioned, very similarly to what I was talking about earlier, social media and our strategy behind that, it took me 3 years to get a dedicated social media person. So I don't want you to think that this happened overnight. This was something that we had to build the desire for over time and that people could understand. Social media should not be a reactive conversation with your residents. You don't wait until they come with a problem or till something happens. And oftentimes, because we don't have the resources dedicated to it, that is what it becomes. It becomes something that someone on their lunch break, when they have 5 minutes in between doing all the other jobs that they have to do, because we all know, like I said, that hybrid position where we're all doing a million things. I'm gonna go on and retweet 20 things when I have 5 minutes at lunch. that is a very reactive strategy. That is not how you build engagement. That is not how you treat customer service. And that's the customer care piece of social media, and what we can provide there is really key. When I talk about thinking about our customers and our citizens, I think that this is a really big part of this, and that level of service that we can provide on social media. However, I will say, to be proactive on social media, you have to have someone dedicated to it. They have to know those trends going on. They have to be able to think about and schedule posts in advance, or what's going to be happening next week. What are those hashtag holidays we want to attach ourselves to? And so that's really important. Be where residents are. Don't be on every channel if it doesn't make sense. What channels does it make sense? We have people all the time that come to us and say, well, I want to, Parks and Recreation, I want to be on Facebook. Okay, well, what are you going to post? We work very closely. We have oversight over all our channels, but we give them content calendars. We show them what to post. We guide them there. We make sure before they ever launch on a channel that that's the right channel for them, that they'll have enough content there, that it makes sense for their audience. Who are they trying to reach? Again, thinking about going where your audience is or who your audience is. And so that's really key. And so we outsourced this for a while, and what we found was that this person wasn't ingrained in the organization. They weren't connected. They weren't really understanding what was happening here. They couldn't speak in the voice of the mayor. They couldn't speak on behalf of us. How would the mayor respond? How would the city manager respond to something like this? So over time, we saw that that wasn't going to be effective for us, and we really needed someone internally. Plus, by the time I share with another person what to post, I might as well be posting it myself. However, we were managing police and fire and oversight over the mayor's channel and the city manager, as I mentioned, and Parks and Recreation and HR and our own town channels and all of that. And it was a lot. And as we all know, social media is 24/7. If your residents have a question and they come to social media to ask you that question, they don't want to wait till Monday to get an answer. And that's very foreign in government, right? That 9-to-5 mentality, I'm going to sit in my chair, I'm going to clock in, I'm going to clock out, and I'm going to be here during only those hours to answer social media requests or issues. That can't happen this way. That's not how our residents live their lives. They don't call a number or send an email and wait for a week for a response anymore. They're impatient. They want answers, and they want them quickly. And so in our department, it is expected that social media issues, questions, requests be answered or acknowledged. Even if there's not an answer that we're acknowledging them, we're going to find it within an hour on a business day. Obviously in the middle of the night or whenever, that's not going to be the case. But really moving away from that mentality of, well, we're only going to be doing this 9 to 5. We had a couple of departments who launched on social media, and they put admins in charge of it who were behind a desk, completely disconnected from the content or what was happening out in their communities, and also feeling like they had the desk job and they weren't the right people, right? And so again, thinking about who are those people who can be clever, who can be funny, who write well, who can be engaging. Those are the people that should be managing your social media. So look for those advocates in your organization. This person's really great on social media personally. They would probably be pretty great on social media professionally as well. And so those are the people that you want to be managing your social media. We coordinate, as I said, everything through our office. So no one opens a social media account without starting with us. We do some social media 101 webinars, brown bag lunches. Hey, even if you're not a social media manager for the town, you just want to know for your own personal use, your employees are your brand advocates. You want them out there telling everyone, come work in Gilbert, come live in Gilbert. Sending that message, sharing that message. It's actually better when it comes from them than when it always comes from us. And so we train them. We say, hey, we've had people say, what's a hashtag? How do you do this? And so we bring them together and we teach them the basics. Again, even if they're not going to use it for work, but they're just using it on their personal time, this is something that's very valuable and worth making the investment in. Again, because they will go out and share the message of your city or the work that you're doing with other people. The customer care, as I mentioned, what we can provide 24/7 on social media, really powerful. Overwhelming, I know, but again, if you don't have an answer, oftentimes people want to be heard. They want a place they can go, and maybe they want to create a forum where they get feedback from other people. And so we love that, and it's not always positive, and that's okay. We are, open to that, honest, transparent. If we don't have answers, we say, I don't know, but I'll try to find out for you. And then we do, or we get them to the right person. And this is really great. And our departments tell us that what we're able to provide from a customer service perspective for them, especially our public works department, what we take off of their plates by doing this, and especially with 311, this has been really powerful. And they give us a lot of feedback that they just love, that they know we kind of, are able to handle that side so they can focus on doing their jobs. Again, not something that every organization's going to have. There's a lot of organizations out there that have communications departments that are one man, one woman bands. And I would still say that this should be a priority. Our residents everywhere, our world exists on social media, and so we should be there too. And we should be communicating well there. It used to be that our local news stations were the go-to places, especially in emergency incidents and emergency communications. People would go to the local NBC affiliate to find out what happened in an accident. That's not the case anymore. They want to come closer to the source. Obviously, we all know what's happening in the media landscape, and people with fake news or not trusting the media or whatever that might be. So people are more likely to come to you, your city channels, your fire department channels, your police channels, for the most up-to-date and accurate information. And if it's not there, then you're missing an opportunity to be connecting with them, and you will lose out because they will go find the information somewhere else, and it's probably not going to be as accurate, up-to-date, informative as what you could give them as the source. So this is really important, and we have a very, very coordinated effort with our police and fire departments in emergency situations. We actually, my team goes with on site to handle social media for them, because oftentimes they're police officers or firefighters that are being asked to do social media, and especially in an emergency event, they need to focus on other things, logistics, whatever's going on in that moment. So this has been a really great way to build that relationship, and I would highly recommend it. In fact, one of my staff members, she gives an entire talk on how to use social media in emergency situations. So if you're interested in that, I can obviously point you in her direction. She can share with you more. Advertising, another great use of social media, social ads, pennies to the dollar of what you'll spend in traditional advertising, as I mentioned with printing and flyers. For us to mail a single postcard without any imagery, really not a lot of text to all of our residents, which we have to do really only a few times every few years, mostly elections, it costs us $40,000 to mail a single postcard to all of our residents. That is not a good use of money. That is twice as much as my annual marketing budget, more than. And so we don't have those types of funds. And what we've found is when we have to, it's a new trash schedule, a special census, an election. Okay, that's fine. We work with those departments to secure the funds and make sure that we get that information out. But think about how often your residents are checking their mail. I know I only check my mailbox about maybe once a week. And it's mostly junk mail, and I'm usually throwing it away. Or think about what they do when they get that information from you. That $40,000 is going to end up in their trash can. And so we think of other different ways that we can be utilizing, and ads are a great one. Again, it's for $1 a day, you can advertise on social media and be making a much more impact. You can track it. You can see how many people are watching. One great example that I love to give is from our water department. They would run quarterly water ads before in the movie theaters. And the ads would come up, and I think they were paying about $2,500 a quarter, so $10,000 annually to run these ads. And no one was coming to their classes. They were ads for water classes for businesses and residents who wanted to learn how to conserve water. No one came. So my staff said, hey, stop running your ads for one quarter. Give us $250. Let us advertise on social media, and let's just see what happens. Their classes were filled. They had a waiting list. They had to add more classes. They could not believe it. So now for $1,000 or less annually, they're able to advertise. They can track the reach. They have butts in the seats. They know people are coming to their classes. We know why, because they saw it online. And they stopped doing the movie theater ads. And again, when we ask them, why are you doing these movie theater ads? Oh, because we've always done it. Can't tell you how many times I've heard that. I know you've all been there. We've always done it that way. That's a key a key problem in government, I think, that holds a lot of people back is thinking about, you know, that evolution and evolving with the rest of the way the world is and how they're getting their information. So this is really key. Another great thing we have is a Gilbert Social Media Ambassador Program, where we bring key social leaders from the community together from across Gilbert to share best practices, things that they love, things that they're seeing, trends, and then making those connections so they share our content, we share their content, kind of building those relationships across the city. So again, as I mentioned, can't emphasize enough, social media is really key to all of this. Gilbert 311, I mentioned, was a project that originally started out in IT and in the mayor's office, but came into my office in May, and really great because now we're seeing a lot of the issues that people are putting into 311, we're using C-Click Fix, which you may be familiar with, are similar issues to what people are coming to talk about either on Nextdoor or reporting to us on our other social media channels. So just having that coordination and what we're able to do with the numbers and being able to, again, provide a level of customer service when we see a problem and we fix it, and we acknowledge that the problem's there, and then we close out an issue. This is a really powerful tool. At first, our staff was very nervous about this because they thought, well, we might not have enough resources to fix all the problems that exist, but really you need to turn that on its head and think, instead, you'll now have the data to show you that the problems exist so that you can make the case to get the resources you need to fix those problems. So that's really key, and a lot of times just asking people to think about it differently, they will do that. We've had great success with 311. We launched, as I mentioned, last May officially. These are just some numbers in the last portion of the year, but you can kind of take a look and see. We had on about a day. These numbers have actually, the time to close have come down this year alone, but really great feedback we get from our residents on using the app and taking a picture and how easy it is. And some of the comments I have here, you know, this is a handy little tool. I went on my walk this morning and found a pothole and they've already fixed it. Awesome example of a modern responsive government. But again, this is really important that a project like this in 311 is in the right people's hands. If a 311 app lives in your IT department, no offense to the IT department, but they're technologists and they're not thinking about the outward facing marketing piece or actually getting people to use your app. And so this is really important that outward facing piece at least lives in line with your marketing department or your communications department so that the outreach is there so people actually use the app. As I mentioned, Nextdoor, really incredible numbers and engagement. I know how people say with Nextdoor a lot of times, you know, you get the missing dog and the cat and I saw a suspicious car and all of that. I get that. And it can be a little exhausting. However, from a government perspective, the ability that we have to put direct messaging into people's inboxes and be able to track it again and to click on it and know that it's coming from an official source and that they are Gilbert residents, because you have to be a certified resident, is a really, really powerful tool. Long gone are the days that you need to go to HOA meetings and sit in those meetings. I mean, however, if a big issue does arrive, you still may want to do that. But Nextdoor is a great tool for you to be connecting and then sharing customized messaging just to neighborhoods that things impact. Instead of flooding all of your channels with road closures that maybe nobody cares about except a few neighborhoods that are impacted, or water, you know, water's off in particular areas for a few hours. You can just go and click on those particular neighborhoods and send messaging directly to their inbox. We have 78,000 total households in Gilbert, and 40,000 of them are on Nextdoor now. We just crossed this 40,000 threshold. We're adding on average about 1,000 members a month. So this number continues to climb. And we are able to survey. This is a really great way to survey. As you know, I'm probably not a fan of public meetings and bringing people together, because a lot of times the people that show up at public meetings are not, you know, they're the people with the problems or the issues. So creating a place and a space where you can get feedback from residents, Nextdoor is a really great way to do this. And so I would encourage you, if you haven't, to look at what your usage is on Nextdoor and then try to begin to post some messaging there. I am going to try to wrap up quickly so we can leave some time for questions, but I have to mention Alex, our open data portal. Alex, we created, instead of, again, an open data portal that lives in our IT department, we worked closely with What Works Cities to develop our open data portal over the last year and launched Alex, our amazing portal, in December. And she's got an outward facing persona and she can walk you through, you can ask her questions and she can take you through the portal. I do want to show you just a really quick video about her, and then we're going to wrap up, leave some time for questions quickly.
Meet Alex.
Hi, I'm Alex.
Alex is here to help tell Gilbert, Arizona's story through the use of data. Alex can give you information about community safety, growth and development, recreation and culture, finance and operations, and transportation and facilities. Alex can show you trends and statistics about any of these topics using Gilbert's real data. She can help you connect the dots. Alex can also connect you with Gilbert's open data portal, where you can use the information for your own websites, applications, or research. Alex is here to improve civic engagement, to make government more accessible, and to promote Gilbert's dedication to civic open data and transparency, improving interactions with residents and businesses.
Come explore with me.
So again, I mentioned that outward-facing piece that I think is really key, and for something like this, again, an open data portal that just sits and no one uses it, it's not what it's intended for. You know, it's intended so that we really have residents and businesses that use it. We're adding a data set a month, and we're telling stories on our portal. So I would encourage you to visit our open data portal and check it out. If you haven't, we're seeing great success there. I mentioned Spark. I don't have time to really go into this, but this is a partnership that we have with Waymo, Google's self-driving car project, and Arizona State University, where we engage students from across Arizona, junior high and high school, to create mobile apps and games. We also are collaborating with the Smithsonian from DC. They're using our games. Really amazing, innovative stuff that's happening here. I would encourage you to visit sparkathlete.com to learn more about thinking of ways that if you don't have $30,000, like I didn't, for a mobile app, that you can get creative and look for people in your community or local universities and partners to partner up together and figure out how to make programs like these that can benefit you, the community, students. It's really, really an amazing project that I'm so proud of that we built over the last 5 years. I'd love for you to learn more about that. And then I mentioned earlier, I do have a podcast. If you haven't checked it out, or if you like what I'm talking about, I go into a lot more detail in the podcast. We have over 50 episodes. It's called Government Gone Digital. You can find it on iTunes, SoundCloud. Definitely follow us. We have had some really fun guests, and we feature a variety of topics, and you can search by topic and maybe look at some episodes. I talk specifically about getting buy-in from the top down, so you may want to share some episodes with other people in your organizations, maybe your management or your mayor, so they can kind of get an idea of where we started and where we are today, and obviously connect with us if you want to follow all of the great work that my amazing team is doing. That would be great. Let's see, it looks like we have a question here on Twitter. One question. How do you establish the initial connection online with residents, followers, friends, and etc.? Well, that's a great question. We really started from scratch, believe it or not. I think a lot of people think that we kind of came in with this built. I mean, we launched our Facebook page. We really started from nothing. And I think that it's about the content. It's about creating engaging content. You know, like I said, not just retweeting things or posting on, lunch break, but being really thoughtful about what content goes where and creating engaging content that's going to build your following. Again, it doesn't hurt to have big, celebrities or to attach to larger hashtags or themes that are happening, because that's going to get a lot of eyeballs on your content. But I would start small. I wouldn't jump onto all the platforms at once. We've only recently introduced Snapchat to try to kind of target our younger demographic. The majority of our residents are engaging with us on Facebook. So again, looking at what your demographics are in your city, knowing where they're at, going where they are. The majority of our residents are average ages 32. The majority of them are on Facebook. And we do average on every post 28 comments per post. The national average is 6. So we have a really incredible engagement on Facebook. We're really focused there. And then we're also focused on what type of content. Obviously, the new algorithm has hurt us significantly. It's hurt a lot of people. And we're trying to get around that. One of the ways to do that is with more video, live video in particular. So thinking about opportunities to do live video. We did a recruitment video, a live fire recruitment video. We do cooking demos whenever there's a new restaurant opening, something like that. So looking for those opportunities to kind of build your following is really great. Having your employees share is also key. And I would say start small and do it well. Make sure you create engaging content that people will want to comment on and share and like and all of that. That's how you really kind of start and grow that organic following. Don't try to go everywhere at once, but think strategically about what makes the most sense for you and where you can grow your audience quickly and get the most wins. I don't know if we have any other questions. Kristen, do we have any other questions?
None that have come in via chat. I sent you the one that came in via chat, but if anyone has a question, you're welcome to unmute yourself and ask it now. One question just came in. What is the size of your digital team?
Oh, so I walked through at the beginning, 8 people, including me. So there are 8 people total on our team. And again, like I mentioned, we're kind of small but mighty. And but it's taken me about 6 years to grow that team over time. It started small, and like I said, I had to earn the trust, I think, and the buy-in from the whole organization. It took me 3 years to get that social media position approved, and so it's very gradual. I feel really great about where we're at now, 8 people, but we do service the entire organization. I know that there's a lot of cities that have multiple PIOs. That's just not, again, where I think we need to put the most effort. So thinking about well-rounded people, even if you have a small department or a one-man, one-woman band, if you can find a digital communications person or strategist who really understands a little bit about all of it, social, video, is just savvy and tech savvy, I think you could do so much, again, with just one really great, well-rounded person who, like I said, understands what's going on in the rest of the world and can start to kind of make those wins for you.
A user named Alex, I'm unmuting you if you would like to chat. I saw your hand go up. Do you have a question? Or you're welcome to chat, send me the message if you're having trouble getting your mic to work. Did anyone else have a question while we're waiting on that one to come in? No?
Mm-hmm.
Well, certainly, Dana, if you want to share your Twitter handle with folks, they can also reach out to you there. Vince Collins, an attendee, said, "Thank you, this has been awesome." So I agree. Thanks, Vince, for joining us. Yeah, certainly I'll let Dana share her Twitter handle. You're welcome, of course, to reach out to her or reach out to us at What Works Cities. And if you check out our Medium page, we have a couple of comms resources that we've recently put together about storytelling and examples of how other cities have done storytelling work and communications work effectively. So feel free to reach out. We're happy to be a resource as you think of strategy. And Dana, I will let you close out with your Twitter handle and anything else you want to share about how folks can get in touch with you. Thanks everyone for joining us today. Oh, you're ahead of me. You have it on the screen.
Yes, it's here. Yes, so at Dana Berchman is my Twitter handle, and I would encourage you, like I mentioned, to follow our podcast, because I think if you enjoyed a lot of the things I was talking about and want to maybe get others on board in your organization, it's a great tool. It's really why we started it, because we were getting a lot of questions from other cities about what we were doing and how we built our team. And I thought, instead of writing a book, because again, what's the rest of the world doing? They're podcasting and they're listening to podcasts. I said, we'll start a podcast. And so it's been a joy. It's been a lot of fun. And I think I've heard from a lot of other people that it's been a great way for them to not only follow along with what we're doing and get some ideas, even if you're not in the communication space, I think that you'll find some things that are interesting, but then also to be sharing it with other people in your organization who you'd like to get on board with these types of efforts.
Thanks so much. And one more user has asked when we can see a recording. We'll be sharing it in the coming days. Look for it on social media. We'll be sure to share it out.